activities that are happening around the country. Speak of which, it was a busy afternoon up there on the Manari road yesterday, where supporters all gathered together just to make their pledge continue on their opposition to the proposed gas hub for James Price's Point. And we've spoken a number of times on the program about this topic, and of course again we welcome spokespersons back to the studio. Nik Wevers, as there was also a sign unveiled as part of the proceedings to continue this pledge against the opposition. Hello Nik, welcome.
Oh, morning Sandy, and thank you very much for having me again today.
Thank you, and thank you very much for being so patient.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
It was just lovely having you sit here.
I'm always pleased to be here, Sandy, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that you give us to, express our position, I guess.
We're very lucky to have you come in, and I suppose likewise. So, an interesting day yesterday.
Yes, it was, Sandy. We had about 100 people out, just over 100 people out at the Manari Road turnoff on Cape Leveque Road. And, partially it was a celebration, partially it was an unveiling of a sign by the Gallara people, welcoming people to country, and alerting them about the important heritage of the coastline along there, and in particular the Lurajari Heritage Trail. It also warns or alerts people about the number of Aboriginal heritage sites along that part of the country, and that there's penalties if they get disturbed. And the other part of it was to alert the world that the campaign is still strong and happening. Everyone's had a bit of a breather and a refresh over the wet season, which is, Mangala, that's what it does for all of us. Makes us feel better, stronger, and, sort of washes away all some of the traumas that we went through last year. So, wet season's a good time. And we gathered people from the campaign who'd participated over the last couple of years, and they came to be with Gallara people to support their protection of the land and protection of their heritage, and just to say that their campaign's rocking and rolling, and we've got lots of people still working with us.
Even perhaps more so. Nik, were there ever signage along that particular road to talk about the Aboriginal heritage sites?
Over the years, Sandy, I don't know if you remember, but there's been a lot of small blue signs that Department of Indigenous Affairs have, installed. Certainly you see them up the Cape Leveque Road and roads into and around Beagle Bay, and there've been a few up along the Manari Road, but not many. That part of the coast is, as listeners will know, is very important to people who live in Broome. It's now internationally recognised as a significant part of the Broome community, and the link between Aboriginal law there and the country, the sky, what's in the ocean, is very important. And if that's damaged, if the guts is taken out of Dampier Peninsula, it's like ripping the guts out of the community, and we don't want that to happen. So the campaign's out there to support the Gallara people in their protection of their land.
That's very much been the purpose of this, the campaign, other than just the opposition that a lot of people are feeling about the gas hub.
I think that's right, but there are a lot of facets to that opposition, not just Aboriginal law along there, but the impact on the community, the impact on social structures within Broome, people's way of life. Along that road has been a very important part of recreation for Broome people and people who've lived in surrounding areas for, many decades, maybe thousands of years. Very important part, and we don't want to see that lost. We don't want to see that people are prevented from going on that coastline, from going to favourite fishing or picnicking or camping beaches. People will miss out on the stuff that they've known so well, and if they're prevented from doing that, that will cause all kinds of unhappiness in families and in the community, and it's that facet of damaging the social recreation and pleasure that we get out of the country would be enormous, and we don't want that to happen. The other parts of the opposition are, of course, about environmental damage, the potential for pollution, the issues around housing affordability, issues around access to employment. If the state government was investing now in training and education, much like what Peter was talking about with, science and maths and calculus, that sort of investment needs to be happening now for this project, and it's not yet. We have to wait until the project's up and running, which is wrong, because that means then we're going to have all these people imported into Broome to do the work, and the employment is not going to be based out of here.
We've spoken a number of times about the community impact that this would have, and you're touching on it now. Also, since the last time we spoke, there was also a council put together in reference to overseeing some of the projects that are being done out there, two of them being councillors.
You're talking about the planning application of Woodside from last year.
Yeah.
The state government has changed the planning arrangements for major projects in the state, and what's happened now is that we've got regional planning committees. So we have one for the Kimberley, and they make decisions and recommendations to the WA Planning Commission and then the state government about what approvals will be given for development proposals. Now, this particular one's been taken completely out of the responsibility of the Shire, to determine what can be approved and what can't be approved. And now further we understand that the state government is going to take or excise the land that's required for the precinct completely out of local planning control and will be controlled by the state. So all of us who live here will have no input. There's been almost no consultation, and we therefore have got, there is no informed consent about what's going to go on around Walmerton, which is entirely wrong. So the state is lumping this on us, but without our input, and I think that's extremely unfair. And the state government will give approval to Woodside, being the foundation proponent of the gas processing precinct, without any understanding of what Broome people feel about the area, and we'll lose our recreation heritage, we'll lose our Indigenous heritage, and we have enormous damage to the environment.
I noticed there was also the acquisition of land again last week.
Yes, well, this yesterday was partly in response to the new compulsory acquisition notices. The Premier has said during the week that they were just refining the particular areas, which was what was wrong with the previous notices, in which the Supreme Court determined were invalid because it wasn't specific. To date, we've done a bit of research. We still haven't managed to access maps of the precise area that's going to be taken, so that's an argument we still need to have. We completely put outside the process, and I think that's quite wrong, Sandy.
Our guest is Nik Wevers in the studio with us today. She's the spokesperson as they launched yesterday again their pledge to keep strong about the opposition with the proposed gas hub for Prices Point. Nik, with I suppose reaffirming your pledges and with those that have been behind you for the past couple of years, you've obviously learned a lot last year.
We certainly did. We acknowledge that some of the protest last year created much trauma for the community. I mean, people went out to the blockade to support caring for country, and they were confronted with many police. You know, there were over 60 arrests last year. I think we're going to work faster and smarter this year. We don't have an expectation that, you know, we'll have masses of people being arrested. No decision's been made about the blockade, though that may go ahead, but may not necessarily be in the same place. I think tactically we'll operate a bit differently. While we've had the rest that I talked about over the wet season, in the meantime, many of us have done lots of research, lots of planning, have responded to, the Development Assessment Panel report. There's been work done with the EPA. We're waiting now for the Strategic Assessment Report to come out. We've done a whole lot of surveillance. We've got the message out across the internet in numerous different ways. There's a new website, and we're just gathering momentum and people and support, and we've done a lot of work over the last couple of months to do that. So yesterday was really just coming out into the public arena and saying, yep, we're still here, we're still big, we're still strong, we still intend to protest. And we still believe that, both local government and indeed local representation has let us down severely, and this is the only way that we can do it. We seriously have to get a message to Mr. Barnett that Broome people are not happy about this project.
Will you be getting the support from Perth like was last year? You're
talking about protesters coming up. There are people all around Australia who are supporting us, Sandy, from a range of different organisations, and individuals who are supporting us in all kinds of different ways. I mean, that was something that was just made a mountain of in the media. But we have an expectation, as we do every tourist season in Broome, in the dry season. Many people come here to visit the country, to see where we live, to see the gorgeous coast. We expect we'll see a lot more people this year, and many of those will come and support the campaign.
And already we seem to be into gorgeous April mornings, don't we?
Oh, it's just lovely out there, and even yesterday it sort of still had a little bit of a drizzle of rain and a bit of thunder, and it was, it's just lovely. The road is very muddy, has been chopped up. The verges of the sides of the road have been widened. It's very messy, that Manari road, and of course our concern is that the Shire may well, or it's possible, may well just close the road and allow only Woodside and their traffic through, but not the people who just normally go up there for fishing and whatever they go up there for. And that's a really big concern. So we'll be doing something. We'll be certainly making every effort to talk to the Shire about the issue of closed roads without any alternative access.
And yet it's the huge trucks and vehicles that are creating a lot of the damage.
Oh, that's correct. I mean, and I think the Shire's proposed policy is about, they want to support the majority of traffic. Now, one would hope that the majority of traffic is numbers of people, not tonnage. And once big drill rigs and flatbed trucks and bulldozers and graders and all the stuff that's planned, that's needed for the drilling works, will cause huge damage to the road, and wouldn't expect to see that happening now while the road is still very muddy. But our biggest worry is that the drilling rig apparently is to go onto the west of Manari Road, through the vine thickets, up over those beautiful dunes, and do some drilling. Now, you know that there's burial sites along there, all kinds of heritage sites along there, and the risk is that they will be interrupted and damaged. And I think this is what's motivated us to put the signs up to protect the country.
What would have to bring a drill rig in that direction?
On the precinct plan, there's two sets of pipeline corridors that will go, the gas needs to come in for processing, and then the gas needs to go out onto ships and onto the, to be exported. And I believe that the pipelines will need to go, or are expected to go, underground. They need to do some drilling to check the geology of the rock underneath. They need to find out how deep the sand is. They need to check flow of water and just the general geography and lay of the land. So that's why they'll be out there drilling, taking samples, checking the water. But once that vine thicket is trashed by equipment, big earth-moving equipment, it will take many, many, many years for it to be reinvigorated and go back to how it was previously. The permit that Woodside has to undertake these so-called investigation works requires that the land be returned as it was when the permit was first issued. And that's impossible, Sandy. The amount of degradation out there and the clearing that's already taken place after this wet season, the erosion is absolutely enormous. Now, you imagine if a drill rig goes into the sand dunes and starts drilling with all the other equipment that they have in there, heaven knows what will happen to those sand dunes, and never mind the middens and the flint factories and the burial sites being disturbed is very, it's scary.
Well, thanks for explaining that one in layman terms. It has been in detail in their previous newsletters, but making sense of it is another matter with what they're doing out there.
I don't think people realise how damaging it will be, and it'll be damaging forever, and how urgent this is. This is about to happen. And, last year after the blockade, we saw police vehicles, half a dozen police vehicles, a dozen or so police actually walking the bulldozer through the country while it cleared the land to keep the protesters away. And this is going to happen the same west of Manari Road on the sand dunes. And we all have to be prepared to do what we have to do to stop it, because once it's done, it's just an absolute tragedy, Sandy.
Spirits, what are they like? Everyone's Leanne.
I think feels good. As I said before, refreshed, but really concerned in the bottom of our guts, if you like, that this is going to just go ahead and we're all going to be walked over without any explanation. But we feel strong. We've got support around the state and nationally, and we're keen. We believe it's not going to happen, and we're just going to stand strong to make sure it doesn't.
A decision is also due at some point, mid-year, isn't it?
Woodside have deferred their FID Day to the middle of 2013. A lot's got to happen between now and then. Tony Burke needs, the Commonwealth Environment Minister needs to give his approval. The state hasn't sent the report off to Tony Burke yet, but we'll be on to it once that becomes publicly available. And there's only 9 days for us to appeal that particular report, so we're all eyes waiting for that to come out. And there's other bits of research that are being done. There's still whale reports to come out. I think I mentioned to you about the research that's been done on the dinosaur trackways along that coast that I believe is to be released at about the end of April, once that report's been peer-reviewed. Now, I understand that that's going to report that the trackways along that coast from Broome right up to Cape Leveque, but particularly near the area of Warmerdon, is of international value. Prints that are nowhere else in the world and not as big anywhere else in the world. I think we don't realise how important that bit of history is in global terms. And the other significant part about the dinosaur trackways is that the local stories, or the Aboriginal stories around along that part of the coastline, incorporate some of the stories about dinosaur trackways and some of the plants from that time embedded in the rock. There's lots of fossils all along there, and it's all part of local lore. And so we look forward to that report being published end of April.
Excellent. I do too. Nik, lovely talking to you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Always seem to get mesmerised with the happenings out there, especially hearing a lot of it in layman terms, because often enough I just read the newsletters, hear what's happening, but it's always nice to touch base and really find out what's happening on the ground. Good luck.
Yes, thank you. It is hard to convert that, bureaucratic talk and then the PR talk that comes out of Woodside, the glossy brochures, but to convert that to what's real and what's on the ground is a little bit difficult. The campaign is having an information evening and exhibition on the 19th of April at the Convention Centre, and we're going to set up a timeline, flowcharts, so that people can understand where this concept came from in the first place and where it's expected to go and how the campaign will fit in that. So we'll make sure it's open to everybody. It's not prescriptive. We'll make sure it's open to everyone, and people can just come along and get some information so that they understand it. But we hope to do it in a pictorial manner so people can see it rather than having to read stuff.
Nik Wevers, that's why it's always great getting you into the studio here.
Thanks, Sandy. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you, Nik. Nik Wevers, community spokesperson, but very much on top of her game there. A lot of years in Broome under her belt, raising a family here, and even at one point the Deputy Shire President.